All right, everybody. Welcome back to Stinker, Drinker, Thinker. We are three guys. We pour some pours. We make some cocktails, and we rank them in an awesome ranking system we developed known as Stinker, Drinker, Thinker. It's a non-numerical based system that is slowly but surely become the way to rank whiskey. It's world-renowned, Guinness World Record book approved for the best ranking system ever. A couple weeks ago, they literally ran an ad, one of those like holographic ads like they do with like the Jurassic Park movies in Times Square where like it was us like throwing whiskey at you.
I heard there was one in Tokyo too.
Yeah, Tokyo.
Dude, that one's even crazy. It's in a big robot and a Gundam. Yeah, dude.
Yeah,
it's
we've
crazy.
literally never even done like Japanese whiskey over here either.
Nope.
Once. No.
Nika.
Nobody liked it but
we did
me.
Nika.
Oh, yeah, Nick, it sucked.
Yeah, mushrooms.
But yeah, so that's what we do here. We're going to do it for you tonight with one of the biggest legacy brands of all time. I am Anthony Longano. I am joined by the definition of dead sexy. If you looked it up, it's not Fat Bastard. It's Troy the Body Viglotti. Troy, say hello.
Hello.
More subtle.
Come in, I'm going to eat ya!
More sultry, please.
I really tried. That was the best I got.
Hello.
I was actually trying to think of how to say hello in other languages, and I just blanked.
Konnichiwa.
Konnichiwa.
That's not
Hola.
sultry.
How do you say hi in French? We don't have any listeners in France. I can do that still.
Mm.
Yeah.
It's not we.
Oh, and then there's Matt McKibble, who's wearing the same shirt as last episode. Matt never changes his fucking clothes.
I actually leave. So right after every episode, the first episode, I strip naked, leave my clothes in my chair, and then so when I come back, I come back naked through Anthony's house, and then I put my clothes back on.
We're gonna do an episode where we're either in bathrobes or shirtless. I'm telling you right now,
Okay.
It's happening. Me and you have been on fire. I don't know if you've noticed this.
What do you mean?
The last like 6 episodes, we're wearing the same clothes.
Same like color scheme?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I am wearing the same color as you are too.
You finally caught up.
Hello.
So you and I, wearing the same thing.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, I'm over here. I know I'm not in the room with you. I'm remote commuting in here, but I'd like to be noticed.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, well,
It's just because you're not in my line of vision anymore.
That's because I'm your blind. Yeah, I just can't see me.
Well, a little disclaimer on
Like
this
John Cena.
podcast, we speak in absolutes 100% of the time. 80% of the time we are wrong. Just about everything is wrong. And as we get into America's oldest active distillery tonight, I want to make sure that statement is loud and clear. We are 100% accurate in the way we say things because that's truly what we believe in our minds. But if you want factual information, you can go listen to the Bourbon Pursuit podcast, who were kind enough to send us out their Pursuit United Bourbon and Rye that we reviewed in our last episode. Totally different vibe over there. If you're an intellectual, this podcast is not for you. That's fine. That's fine. It don't matter.
I don't even necessarily agree with that. But I can also play devil's advocate with myself and talk about what is facts and just tell you about all the bottles of Buffalo Trace that I've consumed over the last, I don't know,
How
5
many?
years.
How many bottles?
I have no idea.
Over 10?
I'm going to read a text thread.
Over 10?
Over 100?
Oh, my God. I'm going to read a text thread from Troy from, what was it, Monday night? Monday night, guys. Here's the text thread.
Was
By
it
the way,
Monday?
Buffalo Trace, it might have been Tuesday. Buffalo Trace, yeah, it was Tuesday. Buffalo Trace is to Troy what Michter's US1 bourbon is to Anthony. And Buffalo Trace is to Anthony what US1 bourbon is to Anthony. I found Buffalo Trace at Meijer earlier today. It's going down like spring water. And I said, put a hose on it and spray it over here. And this was at, let's see, 10:01 p.m. Troy goes, the Yankees are playing in Seattle, so the game just started. And then I was like, Troy, can you edit something for the podcast? He goes, I got to put the bottle away for the night.
Yeah.
How much did you kill? You said you were going to fill a flask, and there was about...
I filled a flask, and after I did that, there was a quarter of a bottle left.
Whew.
Yeah. And honestly, I remember that all vividly.
That's because it's Buffalo Trace,
Yeah.
man. That's liquor you can drink. No hangover either, huh?
No, and I'm not saying that I'm impenetrable to being hungover from whiskey. I think that's I think you can handle even better than me. But I don't know, man. I was flying high that night, and it was like it was just pleasant, and it wasn't. I was definitely hydrating though, and that's the key.
It
listeners.
is. It absolutely is.
It really is. Like, hydrate as much as you possibly can if you're going to be consuming a copious amount of whiskey, and that's the only way to make your tomorrow a little bit more manageable.
The only time I ever get hungover after doing these episodes is when we include cocktails. If I can drink 6 or 7 pours of straight whiskey and
Makes
be
sense.
fine.
Yeah.
Obviously, the lower proof stuff is a little bit easier on that, but you got to know your limits.
Yeah.
And I keep a gallon jug with me wherever I go, and I chug as much as I can in between pours. So,
real quick, Matt, I'm going to tell you in a few minutes, or once we taste Buffalo Trace, why exactly it was that I was consuming a good amount of Buffalo Trace once upon a time in my life.
Okay.
I didn't have many options. Let's just say
we'll get there when we get there. Yeah. But a little bit about Buffalo Trace. So, Buffalo Trace is America's oldest active distillery. Formed in 1775. It's got over a couple name changes, a couple, reputable people have owned it. I think after it first started, before its first name change, Harrison Blanton pretty much constructed the main core distillery there. You all have heard of Blanton's. It was called George T. Stagg Distillery at one point. It was called Old-Fashioned Copper, that OFC, that rare stuff that you see every now and then. It was called that at some point. In 1999 is when they started releasing their heritage bottle of Buffalo Trace Mash Bill 1, which they make. I think we talked about this a little bit on last episode. There's 4 really core mash bills there. 2 are just normal bourbon mash bills. One's a wheated bourbon mash bill. Then they have the rye mash bill. They're owned by Sazerac Company now, which you've all heard of. Sazerac Rye actually is a Buffalo Trace product, but really Buffalo Trace is a Sazerac product, interestingly enough. And Sazerac owns more than just bourbon companies and whiskey companies too. You can Google that, but obviously a destination distillery. They do free tours there. They have a lot of tours. They're all 175 minutes and include free tastings. 175 minutes. Did I say that? They're 75 minutes tours, an hour and 15 minutes. Me and Troy are actually going down there in a few weeks, which I'm super pumped about. We got in on the barrel tour, which is awesome. Lots of offerings from there, and a lot of the most highly allocated bottles you can find are coming from Buffalo Trace. And honestly, these days, because of the shortages and because of their supply and demand over there, it's hard enough to just find regular old Buffalo Trace. The name came from a bunch of buffaloes that used to cross the border in Kentucky over into Franklin County over the river. Kind of reminds me of a scene from like the first season of Westworld, but that's neither here or there. And I mean, Stagg, E.H. Taylor, Blanton's, Eagle Rare, the whole Weller line. Obviously, there's a thing called Benchmark they make, which we're going to drink on here tonight, which is a readily available bottle. I think you called it Mini Stagg. Is that what you referred to it as?
The full proof version of it, yeah. It's like
It's Mini Stagg.
Stagg Jr. or Mini Stagg or
it's-
Baby Stagg
yeah.
or whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a mini-me thing. Yeah. But as Buffalo Trace tries to keep up with demand, I mean, they've been doing everything they can to expand and put rick houses and aging houses and little micro distilleries everywhere, to the point where the city and the county of Frankfurt is getting extremely fed up with them, actually. I was reading an article about this today. I mean, they're putting in an aging house right next to a fucking school right now.
Boy.
Like literally right next to a school with, over 1 million gallons of pure alcohol right now. If that catches fire, I mean, not only is the school done for, but pretty much, 5 zip codes in every direction. Yep. That's a fire that you're not going to be able to put out. And there's petitions and things like that. Obviously it's really good for the economy down there. I get that, and especially a small city like Frankfurt and things like that. But a lot of distilleries, as they get older, they kind of take the rick houses and they'll move them out into the sticks type of thing. I mean, there's farmers that their crops are going to get destroyed from this. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's been coming out about how they're expanding and how they're just kind of like using their leverage essentially to do whatever they want to do, which is kind of shitty of them, honestly. There's 2 sides to every story. I get that they want to stay true to the roots and have everything in Frankfurt. I get that. But, like, at the same time, respect the children, respect the farmers. You wouldn't even have fucking corn if you didn't respect the farmers. Anyway, no politics here. Let's drink. So tonight we're going to do, we have a bottle of the standard Buffalo Trace. It's a store pick. It's a single barrel here. We have Stagg Jr Batch 17, which was the last official batch of Stagg Jr before they removed the junior remark. We did E.H. Taylor small batch and a blind tasting a few weeks ago. We have the E.H. Taylor single barrel here, which I hope to fucking God tastes better than the E.H. Taylor small batch. And then we have Benchmark. Was that Bottle in the Bond?
Just they're called Bonded. Yeah, which
Bonded.
is essentially,
Which I've never tried before, but it is a Buffalo Trace product with that #1 mash bill that they use. Where do you guys want to start?
Well, we can either do price or we can do proof. That's the real question.
So if we did price, we do Benchmark, Buffalo Trace, E.H. Taylor, Stagg.
Yep.
I kind of want to just do the Buffalo Trace first.
Want to start Buffalo Trace?
Get us into the mood.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's go for it.
Troy can tell us the stories about him while he's popping the cork.
Yeah. Well, I'll try.
While he's pouring, I guess.
That's going to be really difficult, but...
Well, then pour it and then tell a story.
Okay.
I call it a pour story with Troy.
It is a pour story.
This is a pour story.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a cork
Both
pop.
definitions of pour.
So single barrel Buffalo Trace, eh? Yeah, I'll have to do an episode sometime where So I'm genuinely curious, when you go to the store and buy a Buffalo Trace, and then when you wait in line or get lucky, you get a store pick, how different they really are. Like, what is the variety of single barrels versus just what you get in the store? I'd like to do that episode sometime. But for now, Troy, tell me a pouring pour story, if you would.
Pouring pour. Okay, so I've always enjoyed Buffalo Trace as long as I can remember. And I remember it... I actually kind of... When I first started getting into bourbon, I think I thought that it was... based on the price tag, I was like, I can generally... feel like I could do better than Buffalo Trace. That was sort of my silly mentality. But I didn't know anything about its history and its legacy and its glory and all that it's done for the industry. But when I moved to New Zealand, and I was definitely I was drinking, when I was drinking bourbon, I was definitely drinking it neat, and I was really just I was just trying to enjoy it. And when I was working in New Zealand, I was working with wine constantly, so I was definitely drinking more wine and tasting more wine than anything, for sure. But when I wanted to just, at the end of a long day, when I just wanted to think about anything other than wine, I sort of gravitated towards a good bourbon if I could find it. And there was only one local liquor store where I could find it. Actually, that's not entirely true. Most places I found any bourbon or any whiskey in general was not a full bottle in the grand scheme of...
They had to be proofed down, didn't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, number one, it's not 750 milliliters in New Zealand, and I think a good amount of Europe as well.
Yeah.
It's 700 milliliters, which is fine. It's one thing, but the conversion rate was pretty terrible at the time, and I felt like I was paying an arm and a leg, because in New Zealand dollars, I was paying 50 New Zealand dollars a bottle for Buffalo Trace, and it wouldn't, if it were 700 milliliters, I feel like I was not really getting my money's worth.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one store that sort of was able to circumvent whatever restrictions that was causing, and they were able to get it at an actual 750 milliliter size, which was great, I guess. But the more important thing about it was that any whiskey, or even bourbon, single malt scotch, whatever it was, that would ordinarily be higher proof anywhere else that you would see it, I think that the New Zealand was trying to avoid paying higher taxes, and as a result, proofed everything to no more than 80 proof or 40% alcohol. So, I mean, can anyone here imagine all of the amazing whiskey that we drink on a regular basis if you didn't have a choice but to drink it capped at 80 proof? I mean, think about the dilution and what that takes away.
Where does it get proofed down? Does the distillery have to
they
make a European release.
Yeah, because
They
they have a
do,
different
yeah.
bottle and everything. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it's a totally different bottle.
Mhm.
And
That's kinda
maybe Matt,
shitty.
you can speak to this more than I can. I didn't ask a ton of questions. I was just kind of flabbergasted by the whole thing. I knew it had something to do with taxes.
Yep.
But I knew that there was nothing I could do except for, again, this one place I was lucky enough that it was like a U.S. bottle, 750 mils, 90 proof Buffalo Trace, and that was my go-to.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and there's a different market, different laws, different. I mean, that's that's correct. But
Yeah.
that is a bummer, Troy. I'm very sorry you had to go through all that because
I mean, he drank a handle of it a night,
I mean,
No,
or 700 milliliter of it a night.
no, like I was buying the 750s,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
but not a night. No, definitely not a night.
What
But
was did you say the price for the 750s?
New Zealand dollars was $50.
Okay. So
What
that
is
was
that?
for the
What is
same
that
price,
to
okay.
American dollar?
In my head, I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, probably normal,
Yeah.
most likely.
$35 ish.
Yeah.
That's what Buffalo Trace
Well,
is.
I got it at Meyer for 25 the other day.
Yeah, Meyer had a flash sale this week.
Yeah.
Apparently, shout out to Charlie Davis again. Charlie said that they were selling fucking US1 bourbon at Costco for fucking $33.99. Do you guys, Michters, do you have any idea how dangerous that is?
You trying to kill Anthony?
You're trying to kill me. I'm running low. I'm running low on Michters. There's 17 bottles behind me, but I'm running low.
All right.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Now, this is a store pick for people who don't know what that is. That means that a local store here, Cap and Cork, they went down to Buffalo Trace in Frankfurt, and they hand selected barrels for Buffalo Trace to bottle for them. So a single barrel store pick. Yeah, they gave out tasting notes. I bought 3 of them. Cap and Cork did 3 barrels. I bought all 3 of them. They did tasting notes for all of them. I didn't want to know the tasting notes. I didn't look at them. I don't know what barrel number this is. I just popped the cork. I'll tell you what I taste. And which is pretty typical Buffalo Trace. First and foremost, this is one of the most crushable fucking whiskeys on the face of the earth, especially per dollar. Sip per dollar, like crushable fucking whiskey. Great in an old fashioned, great in cocktails. It's got such a good amount of oak and vanilla. The nose is there. It's nice and sweet and brown sugar, but like to me, this one in particular is just like a luscious, like caramelized brown sugar covered, just maybe like a piece of a green apple.
The shell of a green apple?
No, just a piece of it, not the shell. The shells of apples suck. With like, just like this vanilla bean.
Do you get any grape or cherry soda?
No. I love cherry soda too, by the way.
Because I get grape and cherry soda. Soda.
Soda.
Don't you know it's
Don't you know it's
soda?
soda? I don't really drink a lot of soda.
You're talking cherry cola, right?
No, he's talking cherry
No,
soda.
I'm talking like grape sun-kissed and like cheap cherry cola, like off-brand.
Yeah, like Target brand or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Food Town brand.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get any of that. But while Troy was telling his story, I devoured mine. So,
Yikes.
and since you've had so much experience with Buffalo Trace this week, I'd be curious to see what.
Yeah.
Curious if we compare this to the average.
Yeah,
quote unquote.
the batched Buffalo Trace.
Here's another disclaimer. I typically drink Buffalo Trace out of a rocks glass. Sitting here and drinking it and analyzing it out of a Glencairn is a totally different experience, which is very much deserved. So let's just put that out there.
Okay.
There's a lot more nuance to what's in this glass right now, but I'm not sure if it's because I'm sitting here and we're doing this.
I think we proved that on the glassware episode that it probably is.
Yeah.
You know,
But it could also be a combination of it being a single barrel and having its own sort of profile compared to what I typically drink too. I can sort of see the grapey thing. I don't get any cherry.
It's on the taste. The cherry cola is all on taste for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
is it cherry cola or cherry soda?
Cherry soda, sorry.
Yeah, I don't get any cherry soda whatsoever.
Well, I do. So how about that?
That's fine. You're allowed to have it.
No, I like that. Yeah, I mean, fruit is something I have to really try and go out on a limb and pick out of Buffalo Trace. I'm not saying it's not there, but it's really not. It's not presenting itself.
You don't get like a crisp
All that
green apple slice,
I get way more medicinal cherry than I get anything else.
Medicinal is a good word. Yeah, I do get a little bit of something medicinal. I might even just a fucking smidgen of Dimetap.
I was thinking more Robitussin, but Dimetap would be grape soda or
Yeah.
that grape crush.
Oh, see, this is how
Grape Sun
this is
Kissed?
how Matt manipulates you to think that his tasting notes are
No,
right.
I'm just saying.
No.
Yeah.
Medicinal. I really agree with. I think I was thinking of a word to describe medicinal, but didn't think of that word.
Yeah. The text I sent you the other night. This single barrel is just a brown sugar vanilla caramel bomb that someone expressed a Granny Smith apple over.
Oh yeah.
That was
Interesting.
like the first
I don't honestly
fresh
don't.
crack pour of it.
I quite honestly don't get. I mean, yeah, you get the classic bourbon, like whatever, caramel and stuff, but I don't really get a lot of. If I think about green apple, I can get it, but I don't necessarily think green apple when I'm just thinking about it.
Yeah.
Do you like it? Such a pussy.
No,
out.
I don't
Get
know.
out.
Yeah,
I like it. I don't think it's.
Matt is no longer part of the Stinker Drinker Thinker podcast.
Now it's going to be called the Thinker Drinker podcast. I think I like it. I don't think I love it. I don't know. I don't even know, and I have to try against other ones, but I don't necessarily know if it's my favorite Buffalo Trace expression that I've had.
Okay.
But I like it.
It's Buffalo Trace. Take
Right.
the store pick side of it out.
But
of
it tastes a little bit different than when I think of Buffalo Trace. It tastes a little bit more that, I mean, we say medicinal again, but it tastes a little bit more of that medicine-y taste, less than anything else.
So there's a difference between medicine.
No,
and
but I
medicinal?
mean, like, I don't know. It just tastes more
I
like
don't
fake.
get any of this fucking
Whatever.
bullshit. Fucking such a pussy. We're gonna be wasting.
We
by the time
can't
we-
agree.
We're doing the Stag next. I gotta.
Oh my god. I think it's okay.
It's just a shell of okay.
It's the shell of a good whiskey.
Such a fucking vagina.
Well,
Troy.
I respect your opinion.
I respect your opinion too, but it's wrong.
What do you think, Anthony?
I've had plenty of Dimetap in my life. It doesn't taste like Dimetap.
I love Dimetap. It's so good.
I don't.
I love Dimetap.
I haven't had it since I was a kid. So
Try it sometime. It's pretty great.
I told you about
You know
the,
that grape thing that you're getting, that like medicinal kind of grape medicine thing. I think you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that, but to me, it's more just it's almost like an undertone of like dark chocolate.
Really?
It's fucking delicious.
Yeah.
And it's a drinker.
It's a drinker. I could agree with that.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say just like most Buffalo Trace, it's usually pretty vanilla, brown sugar, caramel forward. This one, to me, has just a little taint of something green popping out of there.
I think that's the wrong word.
With some chocolate under.
A stick of green thumb to
It's
go
like, well, listen, how big's your taint? Depends if you're male or female, right? You know.
Oh
Anyway,
boy.
that's my and I'm calling it a drinker. Troy, your turn. Go ahead.
I also believe it's a drinker.
Drinkers all around.
Yeah.
Buffalo Trace, go figure.
Let's
Yeah.
take a.
It's a drinker.
Oh, yeah. It's just a drinker.
Yeah, you're right. It's just a drinker. And on that note,
Cracker break.
crack break.
Welcome back from Cracker Break. This Cracker Break is brought to you by the FBI. Let's drink.
All right.
Here we got some benchmark bonded from the McAfee brothers. Aren't those the guy who's
McCaffrey? Running back?
McAfee.
I bet it's pronounced McAfee, but I could be
McAfee.
wrong.
I bet they do the smoke wagon stuff. That's supposed to be really good. Maybe we should do smoke wagon on this podcast.
We probably should.
Compare it to
Yeah, other stuff.
Clyde Mays or something.
Yeah.
You know. This is This is Buffalo Trace Mash Bill 1, distilled and aged and bottled by Buffalo Trace Distillery in Frankfort, Kentucky. Obviously 100 proof.
Yep. They have a whole line of benchmark stuff.
Since this is a twister, I'm going to do it.
Ooh.
Yeah, they got the seal on there pretty good.
But yeah, they have a whole line of benchmark stuff from small batch to full proof to bonded to whatever, single barrel. It's the entry level price point pretty much for Buffalo Trace. They average $15 to $25 a bottle.
You said this was $23.
I think it was $22.99, something like that, or around 20 essentially. And this is the bonded, so it's a little bit higher proof. Most of them are like 80 to 86 proof, I believe. So this one's obviously 100. And it's typically one of the better reviewed bottles of their lineup. So we'll see.
Really?
And we mentioned at the top of the episode that the barrel proof stuff of this, or the hotter stuff of this, they're compared to Stagg.
For some reason, that's the one that's hunted because the same mash bill as Stagg and Stagg Jr. And then it's I think it's 120, 125 proof. So all their barrel entry for mash bill 1, I believe, is all 100. I think it might be the same for all their stuff, but is all 125 proof going into the barrel. So I believe.
And that one's uncut?
Yeah, and the full proof is the uncut version of
Gotcha.
it. Which is why they're like, oh, well, if it's the same mash bill as Stagg, and it's the same, same proof as Stagg, it's got to be Stagg, right? And so, people are like, well, obviously not, because, its age plays a huge part of it.
Right.
Which warehouse or which rick house it plays in. And then obviously, everything, I mean, it is, although it is the same, it is very different.
You pretty much just answered the question that I was going to ask, which is like, what makes this price tag different than what we just had, the Buffalo Trace?
Yeah, so it's
Age,
bottle and bond,
rick house, or just environment, or how much I guess it's kind of the same thing for wine, whiskey, beer, spirits, anything like that. It's just how much care is put into it compared to something else.
I'm assuming different rick house, but definitely age. I mean, you can tell even the color of it is way dark. I mean, this is super light comparatively. So yeah, I haven't tried any of the benchmark stuff. I've heard pretty okay reviews about it. The full proof is the only thing that's really quote unquote hunted because of the relation to Stagg and Stagg Jr. But
what's production like in terms of quantity?
It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. It's right.
I've never seen it at a bar.
It's bottom shelf.
Yeah, it's bottom shelf for Buffalo Trace. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just. I
Yeah.
don't know.
You can walk into a store right now and probably find it. I mean, depending on the state, obviously, I'm sure different availability, but at least around here, it's been on the shelf since it came out. So
Yeah, I've always seen it. I'll tell you, it's got a pretty pleasant smell to it. You can kind of tell it's maybe young.
It kind of smells like Buffalo Trace. I mean,
it does smell like Buffalo Trace, but like a little bit more, like more of a vanilla bomb. I have a feeling it's going to taste a little
I get a
bitter.
Similar grapey note, honestly.
There is a grapey thing to be said. I mean, which is weird because I think Weller is the weeded bill, right? So that's mash bill 3 for them.
So essentially what they do is the same rate. So they actually don't disclose the ratio. So it's at least 51% corn, obviously, because it's bourbon. The next dominant grain is rye, and then a small amount of barley, malted barley, just to get the enzymes and stuff. But all they do for the weeded mash bill is they just take out the rye and replace it with wheat. It's the same thing, just same ratios, pretty much. But mash bill 1 is 10% or less of rye.
I'll tell you, the nose is a lot more pleasing than the palate.
I kind of figured that would be the case.
It's almost like spoiled Buffalo Trace. It's a little sour, a little bitter on the back end. Just kind of what I was thinking, just from the nose. The finish is very unpleasant. You can tell it's $23 whiskey. It's not the most offensive $23 whiskey I think I've ever had, but it doesn't taste like peanut butter, so that's a plus. But I don't know. It's probably make a good cocktail.
The finish is
It's not terrible.
The finish is a little woody. Is that what you're getting? It's like I licked a piece of balsa wood.
Never licked balsa wood.
Just try it.
Have you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty common thing.
So funny. Susie, if you licked balsa wood, I'm sure you've licked plenty of wood, Susie, you stupid fucking bitch.
All right. Susie, you're a nice lady. Don't listen to him.
Yeah. She's so dumb. Yeah, I know, bitch.
Oh my God.
It's not terrible.
I've had plenty of worse whiskey on this podcast. That's for sure.
It's not terrible.
Not plenty, but a few.
I mean, at least 15
Yeah.
worse whiskeys than this.
Yeah. I've got no qualms with it.
Would you? I mean, on a budget, would you buy this instead of Buffalo Trace?
I mean, the budget's $7 difference.
Yeah, but
No.
that's the point. Like,
No.
why would you come out with this?
Would I buy this over fucking Stagg? If Stagg was, $150 and benchmark
Right.
was 20.
I just paid $25 for a bottle of Buffalo Trace, but I am hyper aware that that's not something I can do everywhere.
Right.
I would pay more than $30 for a Buffalo Trace.
Sure.
I would probably pay $40.
What would you pay for this?
I would pay what it costs.
Okay.
But I would also drink it and enjoy it.
Okay.
I'd be curious to see what like a single barrel offering.
They have one.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't buy that purposely because I didn't want the single barrel nature. I mean, we've all tried Buffalo Trace, so I didn't, whatever. But I didn't want to buy the first thing we ever tried from them be a single barrel. I didn't know if that'd be a fair comparison.
It does taste like, obviously, it does taste like Buffalo Trace. It does not necessarily, at least the bonded version of it. I can see I could see the Stagg aromas on the nose, and obviously we'll see, maybe we should do Stagg next just to kind of do them side by side. No, Troy doesn't want to. Troy wants to totally ruin our palates before we get to the hottest whiskey we have here, which is the most rarest whiskey we have here. But
It's unopened.
no, it's not me and you opened it.
Oh, he's talking about the single barrel.
Oh. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. It does got this little bitter finish to it, but other than that, it's pretty smooth. Just a brown sugar vanilla bomb, man. It's
For
just
cheap whiskey, I mean, we're cheap-ish whiskeys.
It's not as like off-putting as most $23 bottles of whiskey that I have consumed, for sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I've definitely had worse Jim Beam and worse Evan Williams at that price point.
And I mean, they're the small batches stuff are like $15. So
interesting.
Yeah, I've heard they're much worse, but
I think it's more satisfying than the Bib and Tuckers that we've had.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
For a tenth of the price.
The only thing it's really missing is a little bit of a lingering finish. It really dissipates quickly.
That's probably age.
Yeah,
Most likely.
it's just not dissipating. It's dissipating right away almost. I would say. I mean, I'll just call it. I kind of want to just call it a drinker.
I'm actually going to agree with you. There's nothing quite stinky enough to really call it a stinker. I think I'm just.
Yep.
Gonna go drinker.
It's unanimous.
As boring as that is.
Yeah. All right. There's our review of Benchmark, everybody. It's a drinker. Money well spent.
Yeah.
Yep.
Benchmark bonded. Totally fine whiskey.
Cracker break.
Oh, do another cracker break?
Yeah, we have to.
Okay. Cracker
We're back.
break.
We're getting into cracker break.
Welcome back from cracker break. Hey, Anthony. Did I ever tell you about that time when I met Lance Armstrong at a party? I walked up to him and was like, "Hey, Lance, how was the party?" He's like, "Oh, I had a ball."
That might have been the worst one I've ever heard.
That was pretty fucking bad, man.
I didn't know. Yeah, okay.
Because Lance Armstrong has one testicle. We get.
Did you know?
That's
that?
a Susie joke.
That was actually submitted by Susie.
Round of applause for the worst fucking joke Matt's ever said.
How did you know that Susie submitted it?
Susie, you stupid bitch.
But on a happier note, we get to drink E.H. Taylor single barrel.
I mean, is that a happy note? Because
I don't know.
E.H. Taylor small batch is some of the worst fucking whiskey I've ever drank.
Some of the most overrated whiskey, not some of the worst whiskey. Some of the most overrated whiskey.
It's just boring.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And so small batch versus single barrel. This is where our accuracy comes in. Small batch is they take barrels and they batch them together, essentially. So they'll mix all these barrels together, they'll proof them down together, and that's a small batch of whiskey. Depending on the distillery size and the output, 250 barrels will make a small batch.
Yeah, or a couple barrels or whatever.
Yeah, right. Depending. Yeah, I mean, but usually for a higher output legacy brand like this, or Michter's or Heaven Hill.
They're making big small batches.
Yeah, Elijah Craig is 250 barrels, which equates to 2,500
a lot
bottles of whiskey. Single barrel means that they hand selected this barrel, and there's 250 bottles of it, depending on the size of the barrel. Usually,
depending on output, depending on age,
Angels share, all that stuff. So, I'm excited to try it. It's a pretty hard to find bottle. Secondary market is a couple $100. If you find it in the tube on the shelves, or if you got a relationship with your clerk, it's about $60. We're here to tell you if it's worth it or not. So, Troy, you want to start breaking the seal on this?
Let's go a little pull tab.
The cool thing about E.H. Taylor is a lot of the stuff that you guys drink today is because of him, and Colonel E.H. Taylor. We talked about this many moons ago, maybe on the first or second episode, honestly. The Bottled and Bond Act of whatever year was because of him. That was a post-prohibition. People were pretty much putting whatever the fuck they wanted in bourbon bottles and whiskey bottles, and killing people, toxins, things like that. It's just like now people cut drugs with fentanyl. There's a fentanyl epidemic going on, that type of thing. Same thing was happening with whiskey back in the day. The Bottled and Bond Act was put in place to make a strict, standardized regulation of how you can make 100 proof bourbon, essentially, and we have him to thank for that. Me personally, I think it's the weakest Buffalo Trace offering.
E.H. Taylor in general?
E.H. Taylor in general, small batch.
So
I've never tried anything but small batch.
So that's what I'm saying. No one here has tried single barrel or 4 grain or any of the other stuff.
I did have single barrel one time at a bar in Colorado, but I was fucking sick shits in the wind.
That's fair.
So
they have a lot. They have so many offerings.
Never heard that one.
They have 4
Warehouse C, the Tornado one, the barrel proof. They have
18-year marriage, straight rye.
Yeah.
I mean, 4 grain, whatever.
And so there's a certain warehouse on the Buffalo Trace Distillery. It's Warehouse C, where all of the E.H. Taylor stuff is distilled. It's supposed to be this magic fucking rickhouse. And I'm ready to see the magic, honestly. So
show me the magic.
Yep. Are you ready to hear it?
I'm ready to hear it.
I'm going to hear it first. I'm kind of, I've been saving this bottle for a while now, so
I've had it for about 6 months. Yeah.
I actually legitimately forget which single barrel it is. Does it say which store?
You got it at Binny's.
No.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I did get it at Binny's. You're right.
You texted it to me, and he said, "Here's their allocated section." I was like, "Get me the single barrel." He goes, "No, I'm getting that for myself." It's like, why did you text it to me if you're not willing to buy it for me?
Because I had to let you know. It's important. Troy spilled this all over my hand, so I'm gonna cheapen drinking it.
Well, you chose to not put the glass down on the table. So.
There's not really a place to put it.
Thank you, Mr. Body.
All right. Well, into the breach, my friends. We'll have to see how significantly better, if better, this is than the small batch.
I will tell you, it smells a little bit brighter than normal Buffalo Trace.
Brighter, okay.
Yeah.
More citrusy brighter, or?
It's not as dark brown sugar vanilla type of thing as it is. It definitely smells better than. It doesn't smell flat like the small batch does.
Yeah.
The small batch is just not interesting. The nose is actually very interesting on this.
I remember the comment that I said about the small batch, and my initial gut instinct was oak and alcohol. Mm-hmm. So as long as I get more than just those two components, I'll be satisfied.
I'm getting tons of oak here. I'm not really getting the alcohol. I mean, maybe some extent. It doesn't have like that.
Yeah, it's the same proof, obviously, because they're all both bonded. So
yeah.
It still smells.
Maybe a little bit more of like a bread thing.
Yeah, it still smells a little bit less. No, it's not super interesting, but yeah.
Less what?
It's missing the vanilla.
Just less
characteristic, like that grape thing that we've tasted in the other two bills. Like
honestly, just less. It just smells less. I don't know,
getting a little bit more leather.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I'm going in.
All right. That's good.
That's really good.
All
right, we're going to have to put it side by side because that's incredible. That's like good whiskey.
Yeah. That's
what a mouthfeel too.
It's totally different than the nose.
It's the nose is very pleasing, but once it gets in there, man, it's a good fucking caramel flavor, man. and the finish is still going.
It also is like thick.
It's thick. It's viscous. The mouthfeel is fantastic. It's like literally like I'm melting like a chocolate caramel in my mouth right now. It's like I have a chocolate covered candy in my mouth, like one of those like Christmas chocolates, without like the Christmas spices and things you would think. It's just like one of those, Godiva chocolate covered caramels.
Do we know the age statement?
Of this one,
Bottle of the bond. I mean, it has to be at least 4 years. Yeah,
at least 4.
Yeah, but we don't know.
I think that they said their stuff is like 6 to 8 years. I don't know. I kind of want to put it next to the small batch.
Not tonight, but we will do that. Yeah.
Yeah, it does have a long finish.
Yeah, it's still going. That's significantly better than the small batch, I will say.
Way better. It does have a little bit, interestingly enough, it does kind of have like a little bit of that bitter end that I think is more typical with normal Buffalo Trace compared to my single barrel, but like that I got in that benchmark. But it's obviously lingering longer. The color profile is still the same too, compared to the benchmark, the Buffalo Trace. I mean,
benchmark's a little bit lighter.
Yeah.
And also looks like orangey, but yeah.
You can kind of, I mean, it tastes like, honestly, it tastes like very good Buffalo Trace.
This might be one of the.
I mean, it's hotter, right? So it's bottled and bond Buffalo Trace, essentially. What it kind of tastes like.
I mean, that's exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
Same,
Which I'd be surprised if it wasn't aged longer. I really.
It's
I really-
older.
6 to
It's
8
older
years.
than 4. Yeah, it's
I'm gonna say
it feels
6 to 8
older.
years.
And Buffalo Trace is what?
Non-age dated, but probably 3 to 3ish.
It's got a 3 to 4.
Actually, I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, I thought I read once that Buffalo Trace is 5. Actually, absolutely, Buffalo Trace is 5. But this is definitely longer. It's in obviously a prestige warehouse on their campus. But I mean, it's literally Buffalo Trace. They just put.
They say it's average 6 to 8 years.
Yeah,
so
that's. I mean, you can get
for Buffalo Trace.
So this has got to be 9 to 10.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I can see this at barrel proof, like
Being fantastic.
very good.
Yeah. Just a good bold whiskey.
That's interesting. It is. I mean, yeah. I honestly would probably never buy a bottle of small batch again.
Either will I.
I
would buy this if I saw
If it's on the shelf, I'd do it for like a giveaway or whatever. But I would buy a single barrel.
I could already tell that it's opening up too.
Yep.
Yeah, initially, the nose, I mean, and down the bottom of the glass, it does have that, what Matt's referring to is that, like that, kind of like that grapey characteristic. I would say it's a little bit more leathery and oaky, which kind of makes me think there's a little bit more age there. But the brown sugar, caramel, vanilla-esque vibe that Buffalo Trace is giving out is all there. Once you get it into the palate, it just seems like a more mature version of Buffalo Trace. It's fucking fantastic.
It has a lot more depth to it.
There's a lot more depth to it. If you can find that, and I would say this is 100% a drinker. If you could find it for $65 in the tube through a relationship you have or in an allocation lottery or something like that, absolutely take advantage of it. It's good. I would not spend $250 to $300 on this like you see on some secondary markets. If you can get it for $100, I would get it. Just good overall classic Buffalo Trace and classic bourbon notes with a lot of history and heritage behind it. A good single barrel for sure.
Yep.
Troy?
They did a good job.
I am going drinker thinker, my friends. I'm very intrigued. I really am.
Well, what are you thinking about?
I'm thinking about how the nose has developed in just a few minutes since I initially poured it in the glass. It was a fresh crack, so that's definitely bound to happen. But sometimes you have to wait a little bit longer for it to open up, and this one was just kind of like a little excited to sort of express itself after a little bit. And for me, that's kind of like where a thinker comes into play. It's like, well, the evolution in a short amount of time. And there is a fruit component in some way, I think, but I can't pinpoint it. I think it's figgy.
I can get on the fig train.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more like black cherry.
Fig jam.
Yeah.
I could see a black cherry marmalade type of thing.
I'm pretty bad at picking out cherry in whiskey, I'll be honest. I know it's a thing, but
You drink a lot of wild turkey too. So that's like the number one like taste note for wild turkey. It's is cherry.
really, that's good. That's good to know. I'll
Yeah.
have to think about that more
Yep.
when I'm drinking it.
Yeah. I'm hesitating to call it a thinker, but I'm close. I think I'm unfortunately, not unfortunately. It's great. I'm going drinker because it really is wonderful. It's significantly better than small batch. Yeah,
Significantly.
it
Almost
is.
a fucking night and day difference.
Yep.
It's amazing how that we have to do single barrel versus small batch episode.
We could do literally this exact episode, but small batch versus.
We can do a Buffalo Trace one, but like I mean, honestly, we can do Elijah. I mean, we all have so much Elijah Craig single barrel and private barrels. Like we could do that for a small batch. We can do this. I definitely want to put this side by side. When we do the All Star episode, which is something we haven't talked about together yet, but we're gonna have a greatest hits episode where we do the 4 greatest cocktails.
Ooh,
Revisited type of thing, and we'll have a guest for that.
it's news to me.
Yeah, I literally thought about it while I was making the cocktail on last episode.
Oh, okay.
Breaking news! Huge news! Yeah, anyway, and then like maybe we'll bring some things back where it's like, you know what, we should revisit this later. Maybe we'll pick like the 4 top hits of things we should revisit. And honestly, putting E.H. Taylor side by side because we've given it nothing but bullshit on here with the small batch. But I don't think this next one's gonna suck.
We'll see.
I'll say that.
But you did drinker as well.
Oh yeah, drinker. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Cool.
In the decanter. Yep. Happy to add the kernel.
On that note, triple crack break.
Quacka.
Break. And welcome back for Cracker Break. This Cracker Break is brought to you by whiskey. Let's drink some.
George T. Stagg.
Nope.
Yeah, that's what we're drinking.
Well, it's called Stagg Jr. here.
Yeah. I wish we were drinking George T. Stagg. Troy got to drink some. There's some interesting history to this bottle. I almost fought a motherfucker for it.
Well, let's see if it's worth the fight.
It is. It is.
This is batch 17.
Yeah, this is the last batch that they did with the junior marking on it. I also had batch 10 at one point, gifted by Jared Kalish, who was on the Weller Barely Know Her episode.
They don't have the junior marking on it
They
anymore?
removed
gonna
it.
be
It's just called Stagg.
Yep.
Interesting.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
So if you see anything with the junior on it and you find it at a reasonable price, under $100, I'd probably grab it if I were you. Probably going to be worth something. Keep the lid on it. It is a drinker, though. I will tell you that.
Without even drinking it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. I'll let Troy do it.
It's only like 195 proof, right?
Only like 300 proof.
64.35% alcohol by volume. 128, Troy. Your pubes have grown enough. You can, here. Any day now. My biceps are sore, man. Come on. It's got a good pop.
It's got a high proof pop.
HPP.
HBB. There you go.
God, you poured that so dangerously. I was cheersing you and measuring at the same time.
Okay.
So this is like one of the most hunted bottles that they put out.
One of the most, yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
At least outside of the BTAC collection.
Right. That's not unobtainium. This is actually I literally walked into a small liquor store in the middle of nowhere, Indiana, and they happen to have one.
I've never seen one in the wild.
Yep.
That wasn't on the secondary price list, essentially. Never seen one in the wild.
Yeah. You gotta go to the little stores. I found like a little shop just had at like.
Dude, I do that
70
all the time. Like, I'm on a road trip and you see like a liquor store on the side of the highway, I will stop right the fuck in there and see what they have. You'll find some interesting stuff doing.
It's always either like insane pricing or like super reasonable pricing. It's always never in between.
Well, you said that the guy you found yours at, I think you have batch 15.
Yeah, he didn't even know. He's just like, oh yeah, I guess that's people like this. I guess they had like Buffalo Trace at like $50 and had this at like $70. I was like, okay, I'll take that. Thank you.
Do you have more?
I was like, do you have any more? He's like, I think this is the only bottle we've ever gotten. I was like, okay, thanks.
The thing I love about Stagg, so bold. The name is fitting, but doesn't necessarily smell that hot. It's obviously got all of that distinct flavor, but with so much more like of a bolder, like a fresh leather strap that you just got fucking beat the shit out of by a dominatrix with. You know what I mean? Like this whiskey.
Totally, I can totally relate to that.
Yeah, the whiskey is here. This whiskey is here to dominate you and please you at the same exact time.
Oh wow!
If you're into that,
Stagg, the dominatrix.
Can't believe that analogy is somehow kind of sort of.
Yeah, it kind of works.
It definitely works. I mean, that is the nose profile. Everybody
smells like dominatrix
and leather, whipping your candy
like
ass,
fake pleather or like
no leather, whipping your Rudy Poo candy ass all the way to you climax.
That Gusher. All right. Well, it kind of has a very similar nose to, honestly, to a lot of the other ones. I guess it makes sense. I still get a little bit of grape. I still get a little bit of that like effervescent soda-ness. Still a little bit of classic caramel notes, leather.
It just seems like a deeper variation of all that. It's obviously probably it's hotter. It's barrel proof.
It's got more low end, and it also has a lot more just like low mids. Just like it punches you right in the nose.
Yeah, you definitely get the burn factor here with this a little bit on the nose, but it's so smooth on the palate.
I think I can discern a bit of black cherry.
Absolutely,
you getting it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Get some cherry note. Maybe even like a hair of plum.
Kind of like the Amarena cherry, like cocktail cherry.
Yeah. It is interesting on the palate. It hits you really strong. It does fade. It actually like fades really quickly, and then it finishes with a really thick, juicy. It is kind of
like a brandied cocktail cherry.
Yeah.
Just maybe not as sweet. Maybe like a raw sugar of that, but like finishes great. It's for the proof for being 130. Like it's not overbearing. To me, it definitely tastes more like just a barrel-proof Buffalo Trace. That grape profile, I think, is more dominant here to me than any of the other ones I've tried tonight.
What I want to go back and do is Buffalo Trace and Stagg Jr. and then do Stagg Jr. and Benchmark. Kind of curious. Because they do... they are actually... Besides the Stagg being pretty hot, they're not super far off, honestly.
Are you doing the Buffalo Trace or the
Buffalo
Benchmark?
Trace.
Yeah.
They're not that far off.
Same match, but for some reason I just like still get like the Buffalo Trace is just more like this burnt chocolate type of thing, which I really like a lot. It just, the grapier aspect is so much more prominent. I get what you mean by that grapier, like deep purple kind of grape.
It is just a hotter, it is so much hotter. It is crazy. Just on the palate, like when you go back and forth between the Buffalo Trace, it's very similar notes, like very similar overtones, but it is just a much hotter and it almost feels scooped. Like you get a lot of that. You get a lot of that brightness, and you get a lot of the low mids and a lot of the lows, but you don't get a lot of like mid upper mids. I mean, I know it's probably a terrible explanation because we're thinking like EQ, like music EQ.
It's so bold.
Can you guys like really appreciate the color difference?
Oh, absolutely.
It's
you can
like
taste it too.
Shades and shades and shades darker than everything else.
Well, it's barrel proof. It's probably aged. I think 12 years is what the normal.
Some of that, and then like Stagg Seniors, like
18 or
15,
17.
18,
Yeah.
like that,
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's a 12-year age, and then obviously it's barrel proof, so it's going to be uncut and not batched down. But I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah,
that color.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
I would say this is my favorite of the night. Out of
Really?
all of them, yeah, absolutely. I love barrel proof stuff. I also love how bold this thing is. Situationally, if you were a guy,
Try against the benchmark though when you get a second.
oh, I mean, it kind of does have that bitter bite that the benchmark has at the end, but like, I'm putting that to the alcohol content.
Sure. It's closer than not.
Dude, this burnt chocolate thing is here too. Like, smell that glass on the benchmark. Tell me you don't get like a burnt baking chocolate.
Yeah.
Which is a pleasant smell. It's like,
I just don't get a lot of chocolate.
it's like you ever melt down your own chocolate for like to cover something or to make like an icing or something like that. And like, if you don't do it on in a pan on the stove,
like a Dutch.
right? If you don't do it that way, if you put it in the
whatever.
microwave and try to melt it and then start, it's going to burn. And that's the smell I get.
I truly don't get a ton of chocolate, but I know what you're referencing.
Benchmark.
It's not that far off. I mean, yeah, it's a different whiskey, but
I mean, there's definitely a 10-year age gap and it's barrel proof.
I mean, yeah.
But I get what you're saying 100%. Yeah, just to recap on the Stagg, I mean, so much bolder on the nose. You can tell it is the leader of the pack, especially if we compared it against the other three. A lot more of that dark, deep purple, luscious grape strapped with leather. You still get a lot of that caramel brown sugar, not as much as the vanilla is prominent. If you take it too deep of a whiff, especially if your mouth is closed, it will burn your nose. I mean, it's 130 proof, but the mouth is so pleasing. It's so bold. It's deep. It's luscious. The texture is incredible. It's viscous. It finishes hot, but the thing about hot whiskey is it's got to finish balanced. If you're going to give me hot whiskey, you're going to give me uncut whiskey, it's got to be fucking balanced. I don't want to just taste straight fucking alcohol. You can tell that the aging process that this mash bill lived through, and obviously everything's doing everything justice here. It's hot, but it's incredible.
It is for me, it is on the little bit on the border of hot honey, a little bit too much. Just cusping over the to me. I think my favorite pour actually surprisingly was the E.H. Taylor single barrel. A little bit more sweet, a little bit more just approachable, I think. But the Stagg's a great pour.
Classification?
Man, I hate to just go drinker again.
I'm going drink a thinker with mine. I think I missed it. I didn't say it.
Yeah.
Go with what you want.
I'm going drinker. I'm going drinker.
Yeah.
I think I actually would drink this on a cube.
I was literally just gonna say, like,
Yeah.
if you're some guy who is able to get these bottles, I see so many people who post like their collection of Stagg where it's 10, 12 bottles deep. If you're one of those guys and you're sitting out by your fucking pool with your trophy wife and your kids, put this on a cube. It's fucking perfect.
I think I would like it more on a cube.
It would
than
be
neat.
this would be an acceptable cube pour.
Mhm.
I would drink it neat, and I probably prefer it neat. But like, man, if I had this shit to spare, I'd guarantee you I'd put it over a large cube and just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That'd hold up very well. Joseph.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm kind of scaring myself because considering the proof, which typically affects me greatly in terms of my ability to handle it, I don't know, but I was just, it was like I was prepared for this.
I mean, it's gone, Troy.
Yeah. And I don't think it's too outrageous. I don't think it's too outlandishly proofed. I think any less proof would be just more, would be less complexity, which is exactly why that bottle is what it is. Like completely unadulterated, just, concentrated goodness. And I'm smelling this empty glass, and I'm getting even more complexity, which is kind of amazing.
Isn't that awesome?
That's cool.
Yeah, I've always enjoyed
calling back for more, man.
Yeah,
like, I want you to pour it again.
I've always enjoyed doing that with wines specifically that have oak influence, because you can kind of I've found you can pick up on markers and notes from the oak in an empty glass that had once upon a time had wine in it that no longer does, and you can pick up on things that you didn't before, and that's kind of what's happening for me with this whiskey right now. And I'm getting like a really woodsy, not just oak, but like foresty sort of thing going on. And that same sensation generally makes me think of rye whiskey, which is really weird. But like I'm getting these rye notes in this empty glass right now.
Well, it's probably 8 to 10% rye.
Well,
So
yeah,
it's really low rye content.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's considered their low rye mash, but like I said, it's less than 10%.
Right. So that's why I figured it's not maybe not necessarily what I'm smelling.
Could be.
But it's just giving me the idea of just like I think, and maybe it's just the complexity. It's just like really like lush, foresty.
Also, heat. I mean, proof and rye sometimes does get intermingled.
Yeah.
When you're thinking, like, some people can think things are if they're not sure if it's a rye or if it's a proof heat.
Really?
They can sometimes get similar flavor profile. So
Okay. If that's that's a common thing, then that checks out for sure.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, drinker thinker for sure. And I don't know, the each Taylor was I thought that was going to be the
worst.
Well, yeah, and then after I had it, I thought it was going to be the best. But I mean, it's hard to pick.
They're different.
Yeah. Very, very different.
Not asking you to pick which is the best, but just give your opinion on each, man. That's
yeah. All fucking awesome.
Yeah, all good. Man, for as much hate as like some collectors like myself give Buffalo Trace products, I love Buffalo Trace. I love Stagg. I love Eagle Rare, which is Mash Bill 2.
Nope. It's
3?
one. We've just had it a lot, so we didn't include it in this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blanton's is 2, sorry.
Right.
Blanton's,
Elmer T. Lee.
I actually
Rock Hill
fucking
Farms.
love Blanton's. Elmer T. Lee is great. I don't really get
For
the
MSRP.
hype.
Yeah.
I mean, $40, yeah, fuck yeah. $500, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's just the shortage of this stuff. It started with Pappygate, and there was a Netflix documentary about that. It started with Pappygate, then it started, pandemic, barrel shortages, the bourbon boom with the oldest active distillery in America not being able to keep up with it. They got to get their shit together, man, because it's bottles like this that literally turn the industry upside down. It's literally the reason why there's allocated bottles. Mm-hmm. And it's a shame because all of this stuff should be available to anyone who wants to drink it, in my opinion.
Wow, the problem, people hoarding it, and then
that problem starts with the shortage.
Right. Well, the problem is with whiskey.
You're the oldest distillery in America.
Right. But they had to predict, think about it, for like a 10 or 12, 15-year-old whiskey, you had to predict this boom 15 years ago. Who would have ever predicted that? It takes time to make whiskey, and that's the thing.
Obviously, there's age there. I get it. But, I look forward to the days where, 10 years from now when Pappy's on the fucking shelves again.
Hopefully.
When
either people fall off and they give up on bourbon, or it's single malt, or whatever the next thing is.
It's coming.
Or in 10, 15 years, when there is actually a readily available or huge stock of it where we can get it, and people are like, oh, this is on the shelf, I don't have to hoard it, then maybe we'll see
I'm all for Buffalo Trace expanding their rick houses and things like that, as long as they do it the proper way and they don't destroy their community with it, which, honestly, I don't want them holding their huge buffalo balls over that town and saying, we are your economy. We get you're a legacy brand. We get, you are the history of bourbon, that you're the most sought after bourbon. We get that, but don't fucking ruin your people because of it, man. Hope someone good hears that. I'm sure there's two sides to every story. I read one article, but we speak in absolutes here. And if any of that's true, that's bullshit. A rick house shouldn't go up next to a school with a firehouse on the next side. It just doesn't make any sense. Do it like everyone else does. And get us more product, because literally the industry is turned upside down because of 3 of these 4 bottles on this table. And it's bullshit. But anyway, luckily they all taste good, so they all have to go in the InfiniDrinker. All 4.
Let's do it.
Mr. Body, put them in.
Alrighty, putting them in.
Couple caps for you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir. Matt, do you mind if I take another little sippy poo of this?
No.
When's the next time we're gonna open it? Next year?
Probably. What was the first one we put in?
Tonight?
Yeah.
The Pursuit.
Pursuit. Right.
The Bourbon. Batch 2.
I didn't say you could have some trash.
I saw you. Well, that was awesome. I'm glad we got to do that. That's obviously, like we said a million times, one of the most, hunted bottles. If you're a new whiskey collector, it's funny. I stood in line for 3 bottles of Buffalo Trace the other day. God, who would have thought that would be the day where I stood in line for Buffalo Trace? But I did, because I wanted the single barrels. But I saw some people at work and some other people, you could just tell, they were super excited. It's like, oh, my God, a Buffalo Trace store pick. And, that's awesome. That's cool. This whole line is, like I said, gateway drug to whiskey. It's all good stuff. Luckily, it all tastes good. You're not overpaying for it. But
that made me think of something. Before you guys asked me to do this podcast, maybe only a few months before, there were a couple of Instagram accounts that I started following just on my own volition. I think one of them was Whiskey Consensus and the other one was Bourbon Enthusiast.
Yep.
And I was just kind of fascinated by all the bottles that they'd post that, of distilleries that I've heard of and that I know and that I love, but just only had their generic bottles, like regular Buffalo Trace or regular Eli Craig or Knob Creek or what have you. And then I was like, oh man, they make this, they make that, they make this single barrel, they make this toasted barrel, they make this 12-year, all this shit that I'm just like, where do you fucking get your hands on any of this shit? And you guys have made that all possible. So I just wanted to extend some gratitude because this stuff, like it is so incredibly hard to come across unless you have to have some serious fucking skin
work
in the
and
game.
wait in line.
Yeah. No, it's
wait in line. Matt has better relationships. I kind of talk about this another time, but the relationships I've had with liquor store clerks is kind of just all good, Troy.
all
You're
good,
very welcome.
You're very welcome, man.
Oh.
Yeah.
As in, we love you and we're
Yeah.
happy to share it with
Yeah,
you.
we're
No,
happy to
yeah.
share
I
it.
I never would have imagined that I would be as lucky, and
It's all good, man. I mean, I'm actually lucky to have Matt too, in that.
yeah.
Makes
Aw,
sense.
I'm
Sure.
lucky
I
to
mean-
have you both because you guys give me a reason to buy a bourbon.
Well,
Because I don't drink it, and thank you for drinking it.
Oh, no worries. I'm happy to drink all your bourbon. Matt kind of in some way showed me there's a way to hunt. Matt has a couple way better relationships than I do with the store clerks here, which is kind of cool because we get to drink that stuff, which is grateful for. But so yeah, stuff like this as a new collector, this is exciting. I remember when I got my first Stagg. I remember when I even got my first Eagle Rare, Blanton's. Matt gave me my first bottle of Blanton's for my birthday, and it was literally the best fucking birthday ever. And I've had 12 bottles of bourbon. 12 bottles of Blanton's in that 15 months since then, and I just don't give
Which
a
one do you
fuck
remember
about
though?
Blanton's.
That's,
I'm just trying.
it's about
I remember
stories.
that one.
Yeah,
There was a
that's
bit
what
of
I'm
a monopoly going on for a minute.
Well,
there.
there was because
All right.
I went to a Belmont at 6:30 at night, and they had just gotten in all their Buffalo Trace store picks, and they were skewing them into the system, and they had 8 bottles of Blanton's on the counter, and then I ended up. They sold me 4 that night, and they sold me 2 the next morning. So I ended up getting 6 Blanton store picks.
I think that's basically a case.
Yep.
I was trying to, yeah, I did, and the owner found out and was mad. But it got through the whole chain. Brian Lavelle told me about that. I was the guy who bought them out of their picks. Anyway, don't matter. I got 6 of them, and I shared them with people. I give them as gifts. People are happier. Thank you all for joining us. Appreciate it. Wherever you're listening or watching. Hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, hit the share, hit the follow, hit the 5-star review. If you're not following us on Instagram, we're always giving something away. I think we mentioned that a few times. Hit us up over there. We're pretty reactive too, so if you have any comments or want to shoot us a message, please do. I will definitely answer. If you go to our website at stinkerdrinkerthinker.com, you can submit your cocktail riffs there. We have something called the Cocktail Doctors. We've done quite a few episodes on them. If you have a cocktail you're working on that you want maybe me and Troy the Body of Gladi to riff on, hopefully make better for you. We would love submissions. We did give away a bottle of Weller Special Reserve for a joke submission. Keep submitting your jokes. I'll give you something else. That's all I'll say about that. Now follow us along on Instagram and Facebook. And something else to come with that. Keep submitting them. Congratulations to Nick Nevins. That being said, that was really fun. I'm glad we got to do that. Troy?
Yes. All right, so here's how it works. I start the yodel, okay? So it's me, and then Matt goes second, and then Anthony goes third. I count it off.
Do we go at the same time?
No. No, not at the same time. It's staggered. So I go, and then I point to you, and then when I point
start
to
from
you,
the beginning or start from where you already went?
I start from the beginning.
Do I then start from the beginning later?
Yes.
Okay.
When I point
All
to
right.
you,
Yep.
You start from the beginning.
I got it.
And then when
you
you
start
point
from
to
the
me.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and then when you point to me, I start from the beginning.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
All right, so on 3, I'm going to start by myself.
Okay.
Then don't even count to 3.
You're
Yeah,
right.
just do it. You're right.
Yodel-ay-hoo.
Yodelay.
You're